right now. Today is the day that you choose to change the rest of your life. It is time to turn your setback into the greatest comeback story ever told, and nobody is more capable than you. This is the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast, the future #1 weight loss podcast in the world. I am your host, Donato Russo. I hope you enjoy the show today. If this is your first time here and you enjoy the show, please subscribe and spread the word of the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast wherever you are and to whomever will listen. If you'd like to connect on social media or wherever else, check out my Linktree page, Linktree/the Ranting Weight Watcher. Let's connect today. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 207 of the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast. If this is your first time here, I want to welcome you to the show. If you enjoy it, please consider subscribing. If the app that you're using to listen to the show allows you to write a review or rate the show, please consider writing a review and leaving a 4-star or 5-star rating. Doing this will promote the podcast growth by updating an algorithm, which in turn will make it easier for anyone else looking for a weight loss or related podcast that is using the same app as you. One of the best things you could do to support this podcast is to literally tell anyone you know that is in the same position we are all in, trying to live a healthy life. Tell them about the show. Show them how to find it. I want to give a special thanks to all of the financial supporters of the podcast. Thank you so much for considering the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast a worthy investment of your hard-earned money. If you are interested in becoming a financial supporter of this podcast, there is a Linktree link in the description of every podcast episode. When you click it, you will be taken to a website where you will see a button that says Become a Financial Supporter. Click that button and you will be given the options available so that you can choose from there. Well, let's not waste any more time. Let's get into this. Journey updates. I am down this week 1.6 pounds. Total pounds lost since January 2019 is 178.2 pounds. Total pounds remaining to get to the 200-pound milestone goal, 21.8 pounds. So I'm essentially here for 6 years at this point. Technically, January 12th, 2025 will be 6 years. In the time that I've been here, I've been to a ton of workshops. In studio, virtual, I've been to them all. And regardless of what kind of workshop it was, there are definitely commonalities that you see. And it's all human behavior. I've told you before, I spend a lot of my time watching people's behavior. As I spoke about last week, there is an immaturity phase. Now, some of the behaviors of the immaturity phase are all or nothing mentalities, thinking you need to be perfect. The minute you fail, I'll start again Monday. It's very immature thinking. If I remember my time through the immaturity phase, everything that could go wrong was catastrophic. So with that mentality, let's just think about that for a second. Everything that can go wrong is catastrophic. With that thinking, you're also saying that nothing can go wrong because you can't handle it because everything is catastrophic. Everything other than success is catastrophic. This is all part of the immaturity phase. There are other behaviors that involve the immaturity phase. Now, in a nutshell, no matter what the behavior is, many of them stem from fear. You're afraid this is going to go wrong. You're afraid that's going to go wrong. You're afraid the scale's going to go up. You're afraid the scale's not going to go down. Everything you're possibly afraid of, you're afraid of. You're afraid you didn't do things the right way. But fear is the common feeling that is at the core of all of it. And to give you an example, my first year, let's take that for an example right now. From January to August, I essentially had no problems. I'm telling you this in 2020 rear view vision here. I essentially had no problems. My mentality at that time, that if the scale should go anything but down, I would flip out like a child and be essentially, don't talk to me for the weekend if the scale should go up instead of down. It ruined the entirety of the weekend. So in retrospect, as I look 6-year veteran, I look backwards, I say essentially I had no challenges because I know the challenges I have faced since then. But first year me thought that going up 0.2 was catastrophic. And nothing anybody could say to me, whether they were my coach, whether they were a loved one, and nothing anybody could say could make it better. Everything was catastrophic. But like I said, the 6-year veteran that's talking to you right now can say there was essentially no issue whatsoever. It was a natural decline. From January to August, I dropped 50 pounds simply by changing the foods that went in my mouth. No exercise whatsoever. 50 pounds from January to August 2019. So come the beginning of September, I was facing my first real challenge. Because when you end summer, you see the holidays in sight. There's nobody that doesn't think that. The minute everybody's celebrating Labor Day is over, everyone and their grandmother is looking at the holidays like, wow, they'll be here before you know it. And maybe people look back at the summer and I really went crazy this summer. I better do something right now to try and drop a few quick pounds before the holidays hit. And they'll go and join the gym or whatever they do. But I had already been in it, and I never left the life. But I saw, after that Labor Day, the holidays approaching. It was like the storm brewing in the distance. And whatever I thought was scary before then was essentially child's play. And it was obvious to me at that point. Because my first real challenge of my journey was approaching. I was terrified of the holidays in 2019. No matter what I said to myself, no matter what I thought of, no matter what I planned, the entire scenario was going to be a failure, a catastrophic failure. I saw no other way around it. It was at that time that I was starting to build physical movement into my life. So when they handed me the 50-pound charm, that's when I decided you're not going to get another 50 without adding movement to your life. So at 345 pounds, I said, okay, it's time to get moving. And you guys know the story about how I introduced movement into my life. But up until that point, the only thing that I could depend on, the only thing that was consistent was my food choices, my tracking, and my weighing and measuring. Because I wasn't moving yet. So seeing the storm of the holidays in the distance caused me to freak out. It got more and more and more stressful as October came and then November came. I did well in October. I mean, Halloween candy does not appeal to me as much. In my life, there's always been this thing called, I call it the worth it factor. And this is kind of my former my former boss from my old job in Connecticut, her name was Jill. She had this thing that she called it the worth it factor. So because of the business she ran, physical therapy office, people come in, they're injured. They've been there 2 or 3 times a week for 6, 7, 8 weeks, sometimes months, depending on the severity of the injury. They become like family. And, you don't want to see them injured, but at the same time, you're going to miss them when they go. And these people would go to leave, and they'd be bringing in all kinds of stuff. Bagels and, all kinds. It was endless. The amount of food that would come into that place was endless. And she told me one day about the worth it factor. And I was like, okay, what's that? And she says, if someone made it from scratch, it's always worth it. If it's mass manufactured, it's never worth it. If it's bought from some bakery, maybe it's somewhere in the middle. But when they made it with their own hands, in their own kitchens, it was always worth it. And that always stuck with me, because I kind of naturally agreed with that. When my family would make things and other people would buy things, what your family makes naturally tastes better. There's just something different about it. It's like when I was a kid, my family never wanted to go to eat at Italian restaurants because they'd say, what am I going to go there for? I can make it myself. And it would taste better. And I'm sure there are a lot of Italian people that just heard me say that and they all agree with what I'm saying. But it rang so true with me, and it always stuck with me ever since. So Halloween candy is mass manufactured food and was never worth it to me. I could have a couple and be done with it and move on with my life. I could not have any at all and not care and move on with my life. I don't feel like I'm missing out on a payday or a Snickers just because it's sitting there. It's a mass manufactured food item. Never worth it. But then the real challenge started with Thanksgiving. And still to this day, with Thanksgiving coming in the distance for 2024, I have never had a Thanksgiving weekend where I stepped on the scale on Saturday after Thanksgiving and had a loss. Never. My first Thanksgiving, that was the worst possible thing that could happen. And if I remember correctly, that gain set up a chain of events that caused me just to blow the entire month of December. My point in telling you this story is that I'm looking at it from a 6-year retrospect. And I know that when holidays come now, I'm no longer afraid. The system is in place. I do what I do every year. You've heard me multiple times talk about the game plan for the holidays. I talk about it probably every single year since this podcast started. People are interested in me talking about it every year. They say, hey, can you go over the game plan again? And no matter how many times I say, well, I did it last year, they want to hear it again. But with that in place, with that game plan in place, the holidays no longer seem the scary monster that they ever were. My point is, just the holidays prove that there was growth. And so the new people, a lot of the things they fear, because if they should have created a little bit of success, they spend their time afraid to lose the success. Rather than, if in reality, if they just concentrated on continually doing what created the success and taking their mind off the possibility that they'll lose it, chances are they would stay the same or go even better. But they spend all this time, they waste their life afraid to undo everything they did. And I was one of them. I did it too. Does that make it okay? Nope. Doesn't make it okay. It's still a waste of time. No matter what. No matter who did it, no matter when they did it, no matter how they did it, it's not okay. What you concentrate on is what will manifest. If you spend your life afraid that you're going to undo everything, you're going to eventually undo everything. If you spend your life concentrating on every aspect of the journey that brought you success and doing those things every single day, chances are you'll never have to worry about failing. The failures will be anomalies, not consistent. Now, I'm probably going to get very unpopular in this episode. So that's what I do. I say the hard things that people may or may not like. But the lifetimers have made it to their goal. And there's a common behavior with all of them. All of them are just as afraid to lose their progress as the immature people. There's no growth. There's no change. They're all afraid of the same things. They're all infatuated with the possibility of failing. There's absolutely no confidence. A contractor that has been building houses in his entire life doesn't approach his 2000th house the same way he approached his first house. He goes in with an air of confidence. I've been doing this for 50 years. I know what I'm doing. You're paying for my experience. I'm not some Joe Blow who's just starting out here. That's the way the lifetimers are supposed to be. Confident. They are supposed to have growth. They are supposed to be completely different. And yet, I see them with all of the same fears as people just starting out. What happened? Where is the growth? You've heard me say this time and time and time again. You've heard me tell you that in essentially 6 years, I have learned that WW is the beginning, but it's not the end. You don't just make it to some scale number and it's over. There is more to achieve. There is more to learn. There is more to accomplish. People act as if they achieved some scale number and it automatically means they are healthy. They are done paying attention to anything else, and now, how do I achieve maintenance? They firmly believe that a number on a scale either makes you healthy or makes you unhealthy. They never move beyond. And this is one of the things I blame Weight Watchers for. But in the end, it's on the onus of the person to grow. In the end, WW is doing what they've always done. They charge you a fee and they provide you a service. Just because you have achieved something extra and require more, they never said anything will give you more once you get there. But the reality is, once you get there, there is more. And the number on the scale is not the end. It's just a new beginning of something else. And I'm not talking about maintenance, because the maintenance mindset is the same. I mean, can we think about that for a second? You hit maintenance on WW and they give you 5 extra points a day. So you made it to your goal with, say, 25 points a day. And now you made your scale number and they're going to say, okay, we're going to give you 5 extra for maintenance. What sense does that make? Make it make sense to me. Because you achieved this scale goal, we'll give you extra food to eat. Make it make sense. There's no growth. They get the scale number they want, and they just try to figure out how to keep it. And they're just as afraid to lose that scale number as the person who's lost 50 pounds and still has a lot to go. They didn't learn anything in the process. There's no evolution. Becoming the best version of you is an evolution from beginning to end. You evolve into something you never thought possible. But that evolution is hindered by one thing: your desire. So many people are so easily satisfied by achieving a number on a scale. And the crazy part is, depending on how they lost the weight, they could end up in worse health at that scale number than they were when they started. I've talked about this before on this podcast. I've told you how you choose to lose your weight can make it worse by the time you're done losing it. If you spend the majority of your time losing your weight with cardio activity, you can lose water, fat, and muscle. And depending on how you nourish your body, the choice might be muscle first. Because the one thing that people never grow from on WW is that everything's on the table. You can eat anything you want as long as it's in your points. They never grow from that. They hold on to that from the beginning to the end. They never let it go. Like if it's a life preserver, they hold on to it. We're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. I now present to you the Ranting Weight Watcher Accountability Creed. If you choose this day to say this creed, you are accountable to me, the author. You are also accountable to all of those before you who have taken the creed, and all of those after you who will take the creed. But most of all, you are accountable to yourself. Now recite with me the Accountability Creed. Nothing can stand in my way because I choose to be unstoppable. My challenges crumble in my presence because I choose strength when I am weak. My insecurities have no power over my life because I choose confidence in the face of fear. I own every last one of my mistakes because I choose growth over mediocrity. The mirror and the scale are powerless because I move forward in spite of the result. Circumstances are not obstacles because I see solutions instead of problems. The demons of my past can no longer torment me because I choose to renew my mind daily. All things are possible as long as I believe, because if God is for me, who can be against me? This is the creed I declare each day. It is about what I do, not what I say. I will learn the work that needs to be done. I will never stop, even when I've won. I will work consistently, no matter the cost. I refuse to believe that all hope is lost. I will work when I want to. I will work when I don't. I will work when they are cheering. I will work when they won't. I will work when it's easy. I will work when it's hard. The atonements that I've made are made with no regard. I will work when it's cold. I will work when it's hot, because choices have consequences, justified or not. When I think I know it all, I will start back at one, because regardless of what I think, the work is never done. And from this moment forward, when times are tough, I choose to believe that I am enough. And we are back. Thanks for sticking with me. there has to be growth. There has to be an evolution of the mind and the body. And as long as you think like that, there won't be any evolution whatsoever. And you will always have the same fears. You will always struggle with the same things. Nothing will ever change. Because essentially, you have not changed. You've decided you were willing to change up to the point that you created some number on a scale, and that's it. But there's more. There's so much more. If your primary weight loss was muscle and not fat, by the time you're done losing the weight, you will have more fat than muscle, making your body fat percentage higher than when you started, even though the scale number is less. There has to be a desire for more. There has to be a desire to evolve. I mean, I can't be the only one that sees this. I can't be the only one that has seen, over the past 5 years, the stock price of WW has plummeted. They have lost their way. They are not the same company. They are not out to create people that are healthy. They are out to please shareholders and appease members. I'll say that again. They are out to please shareholders and appease members. What does that mean? That means, how do you make a shareholder happy? You make a shareholder happy by giving them money. They invested in your company in order to make money. And how do they make money? If membership is up. If membership is up, their pockets are fat and they're happy. And how does a company that is globally owned by shareholders make sure that shareholders stay happy? They appease you so that it takes you longer to get to where you have to go. They make everything you want okay to have. Nothing is off the table. Because they know as long as you keep the same vices, it'll take you longer and you will stay paying longer. I don't blame them. They're a business like anything else. But listen, this is not non-public knowledge here. You go back 5 years, the stock ticker was up at $104 or $105 a share at one point for WW. Today, as I speak to you right now, 84 cents a share. What has happened? I'm not telling you to leave WW. You don't need to leave WW. You need to educate yourself on the one thing that WW is not teaching anyone. They have a point system so that you can pay attention to everything but nutrition. There are a bunch of snacks in this world that are really low in points. And they have you with a mindset that as long as the points are low, I'll eat it. And those snacks and foods have zero nutritional value. Zero. None. So what happens when you have food that you eat that has zero nutritional value? It fills your stomach temporarily and you're hungry again in a couple of hours. Your body does not stay satisfied because all you wanted to do was please your tongue. I don't know if you've ever heard this term, but I'm going to teach you something new today. There's a term called bioavailability. What does that mean? That means whatever you put in your mouth, your body will absorb a percentage of that, and the rest comes out as waste. The waste represents what your body could not absorb. Stay with me. The bigger the amount of waste, the more your body could not absorb. Let that sink in for a minute. The bigger the amount of waste, the more your body did nothing with. In other words, you got all of the sugar, all of the calories, that stayed. And everything else out the door because it was nothing. Nothing. They have the world believing that red meat is no good for you. It causes heart problems. And how long have they been really saying that? Let's just think of that about that for a minute. They've been talking about red meat causing heart problems literally since the 80s at minimum. I mean, I'm 46. I don't really know if it goes beyond that. But I know in the 80s they were saying it a lot. And for all I know, it was the 70s too. I don't actually know the actual date. But here's what I know now. Right now, how many years between, look, I'll give you 1980. We'll start from the beginning of the 80s. From the beginning of the 80s to 2024. Why right now in 2024 are we just seeing the actual meats that were used in that study? The sources of meat that dictated that meat causes heart problems are just now being revealed. And one of those sources of meat? Lasagna. You heard me right, lasagna. The meat in lasagna was one of the sources for them to conclude that red meat causes heart problems. They have been lying all of my life. I can't imagine beyond my own. They've been lying. Everything you believe about food is a lie. In 2024. Red meat is bioavailable in the 90th percentile. 90th percentile. I don't know what the actual number is, but it starts with a 9. Which would mean, let's just say, let's round it up to 100. If it was 100% bioavailable, beef would literally produce no waste. Can we talk about that? Think about the stuff you've eaten. Think about the amount of waste that stuff has produced. The potato chips, the candy, the cookies. Are you kidding me? This is the world we live in. This is the mentality people have. They tell you to watch your cholesterol while they eat a full bag of chips. Beef is bioavailable in the 90th percentile. And they have everybody terrified to eat it. And the one thing that you could eat that would keep you satisfied for hours and hours on end, they have you terrified of. there is no growth. Do you see what I mean? How many people would go beyond the rules of WW to learn all that I have learned? In just a few minutes, what I have spoken to you, none of it is untrue. I've implemented all of this in my life. I'm eating things now that I would never have eaten when I started this. Because I was terrified by a system that was put in place to make sure I got obese, to make sure I stayed obese, to make sure I got sick, to make sure I only got treated by the symptoms and stayed sick, and then to make sure I died. That is the current system in American healthcare. Eat this way, get sick this way, get treated this way, and die this way. And everything, when you start to accumulate all the health problems, the doctor never points at the food you're eating. He says, well, 60% of people your age have this problem. Let's think about that for a second. They tell us that everybody's body is different. They tell us every single person is different. The journey is different for everybody. And yet a doctor can say, well, 60% of people your age have this health problem. 60%. Could it be that 60% of the people my age are all eating the same way? Could it be? No, that's just logical me thinking. No, how dare I think that? How dare I question a system where these people are touted as heroes? The medical system is shaking hands with the food system. Food and Drug Administration, FDA. They have the world completely fooled. And they demonize people like me with this message. Because they're afraid if you ever get it, then you will not be part of that system anymore. Because that system is all about making money. And when you see it the way I see it, suddenly Bible scriptures start coming to life in front of you. Every day I walk through life and there's a couple of Bible scriptures that I could just look around me and I could see those Bible scriptures. I don't know which ones they are, but I can say them, I can paraphrase them. My people perish for lack of knowledge. I see that everywhere. And I also see the love of money is the root of all evil. We need to wake up. We need to see the world for what it is. We have a bunch of people in power who stand to make money off of your demise. So that means you work extra hard to make sure you don't. The one way you never have to face a doctor is taking care of your body. If we're to believe the verses in the Bible, your body is a temple, right? And I'm sure that treating it with a bag of Doritos is not treating it like it's a temple. Yet they want you to believe that's perfectly okay. I can't tell you how I could sit with a bag of Doritos and eat that in front of people and nobody would say anything. I could bring a bag of Doritos in a Weight Watchers meeting, and nobody would say a damn thing. Well, if you tracked it, that's good. Good job. That's what they'd say. But if they saw me eating a T-bone, a porterhouse, a ribeye, those same people would say, you better watch your cholesterol. We wonder how we became like this. And the core of it, I'm telling you right now, we believed what everyone else told us instead of figuring it out for ourselves. We believed what the people were getting paid to say. Red meat causes heart problems, and one of the sources of red meat was lasagna. We believed them. You want to believe I'm crazy? You want to believe that what I'm saying is outlandish? Go right ahead. I am here to talk to the people, the few, that will become the greatest version of themselves. Well, if you're still with me, then I could easily say that there's more that you're looking for. That maybe you're thinking that the things I say might be a little right. I'm sure the things I've said thus far, I've lost a bunch of people. People like to believe that the things they pay for are the best things. And people will believe anything that anybody says for two reasons. One, they're afraid it's true. Two, they want it to be true. So when a system that is a billion-dollar global corporation tells you everything's on the table, which one does that fall under? You're afraid it's true, or you want it to be true? If you knew a loved one that struggled with alcohol, would you tell them that it's okay to have a drink? If you knew a loved one that struggled with drugs, would you tell them it's okay to shoot up, to light up, to pop a pill? In this world that we live in, an entire system was created so efficiently to demonize all that is good and to promote everything that will create profits in the food industry and in the drug industry and in the healthcare industry. The entire system was created by that, with that in mind. And everything I say is contrary to that. My mission in this world right now is to break your theology, to literally blow your mind of everything you believe. Because the demon in everything here, the wolf in sheep's clothing, the devil in the details, it's sugar. And everything that is low point, these snacks and all these things, and all of these low point sauces and everything else, hiding in all of those ingredients are a bunch of different kinds of sugar that have names that don't actually say sugar. And as long as you don't see the world for what it is, as long as you choose to stay blind, guess what? You'll be blind and you'll die blind. I'm not here to talk to you. I'm here to talk to the people that want more. Life is pretty simple. No matter how much you want to complicate it, it is simple. Eat these 3 things and you will be okay. If it's part of an animal, the meat of an animal, eat it. If it came from an animal, eggs, milk, cheese, eat it. If it grew out of the ground, eat it. Everything else, if you absolutely have to have it, make it yourself from scratch. Don't buy none of this crap that sits on store shelves for 10 years. It's time to become a simplistic way of eating. That's what separates you from what you want. And if you want to live in delusions that you can eat anything you want and still lose weight, move on with your life. I'm not the voice for you. But if you're here because you want to be the 2% that make it to the best version of yourself, I already gave you the instruction manual. Transition your life to eat that way, and the world is yours. But you have to do the hard thing to get there. I love each and every one of you. God bless you all.